The first word my daughter spoke to a stranger at 30,000 feet wasn't hello, it was angel. So faint I thought the engine swallowed it. For 13 months, Harper's world had been made of nods and shrugs and a silence that ate whole days. Then a flight attendant knelt, lifted a plastic fork toward her mouth, and my child's voice slipped into the aisle like contraband light. We were somewhere over the Pacific, the Red Eye's cabin dimmed to a soft conspiracy. Harper's meal had cooled untouched. She sat rigid, bunny wedged beneath her elbow, eyes trained on a spot of nothing. I had prepared for turbulence, for crying, for another night of not knowing how to reach her. I had not prepared for a stranger's patience to succeed, where my money, my calendars, and my elaborate plans had failed. The attendant peeled back the foil with no commentary. She cut the pasta smaller, then smaller still, as if calibrating hope to bite size. "You don't have to," she murmured, steady but gentle. "You can just taste it and tell me it's terrible." Harper's eyes flicked to hers. Something appraised and found steady ground. She leaned forward, accepted one tiny forkful, and chewed like she was testing water with a toe. Nothing magical happened. The engines didn't sing. The captain didn't announce a miracle. But a knot I'd been living around loosened, and the world found a fraction more room. "Angel," Harper breathed. The attendant's smile tilted, not triumphant, reverent. "Close," she said. "Alina." "Alina," I repeated, because names matter. I hadn't expected to say anyone's name tonight without it echoing inside a hard place. One bite became three. Juice, then more pasta. Alina dabbed a dot of sauce from Harper's lip with the corner of a napkin, her movements all quiet competence, no choreography. She didn't praise. She didn't perform. She simply made space for appetite to return without spectacle. I sat there with my hands useless in my lap, feeling something between gratitude and grief pry me open. I had brought us onto this plane with the idiot logic of a man who thinks motion counts as change. We'd left Tokyo's lights for San Francisco's coastline because work demanded it and because, if I'm honest, I was running, again, from the rooms where everything had stopped. And then an aisle became a threshold. My daughter ate. My daughter spoke. And a stranger's name turned the air bearable. When the seatbelt sign chimed and the cabin brightened for landing, Alina passed once more, collecting trays like a librarian reclaiming overdue quiet. Harper's bunny had migrated to the window, one ear arranged like a visor. My daughter watched the wing flaps move as if they knew how to keep promises. "Thank you," I said low when Alina reached our row. "You're welcome," she replied. Her eyes went to Harper, not me. She did the brave part. On the jetway, passengers restarted their lives, phones lighting up like towns. We moved with the slow lastness of people who don't want a good hour to end. Past customs, past the carousel, the world resumed its ordinary gravity, and still the moment kept ringing. "Wait by the window," I told Harper, setting our carry-on beneath a bench where she could watch ground crews choreograph the night. She nodded and pressed the bunny's ear to the glass like a seal. I turned back into the flow, retracing toward the gate like a man swimming upriver because he'd left his breath upstream. Alina stood with the disembarking crew, posture straight, hair pinned into the clean geometry of uniform, smile gentle without asking anything back. She saw me and didn't flinch. "I don't know how to, that is, I shook my head, words spilling like coins from pockets already turned out. "It's okay," she said. "Some moments don't need speeches." "My daughter hasn't spoken since the accident," I managed. "She said your name." "I heard," Alina replied. "It was a good word to borrow. You can keep it." I followed her glance toward the window where Harper's small reflection hovered over a plane's blinking wingtip. My throat constricted around a flood of sentences. How I had become efficient at everything except the only thing that mattered. How I could negotiate billion-dollar deals, but not a 5-year-old's grief. How the house back in San Francisco looked like success and sounded like a museum. "I'm in Tokyo for 3 more days before San Francisco," I said finally, the words scraping. "We're laying over at the peninsula. Could you spend some time with her? Not as a nanny," I added quickly, "as the person she trusted to take a bite." You don't know me, she said, not unkind. Just true. I know what I saw, I answered. I know what she said. I swallowed whatever pride still tried to organize this into a transaction. Please. She looked past me at Harper again. When her eyes returned, they were clear. 3 days, Alina said. If she wants me. She will, I said, and hoped honesty wouldn't punish me for believing. Tokyo in rain is a softened city. The hotel room lifted warm light like a hand. I ordered noodles and miso soup, the kind of food that doesn't require decisions. Alina washed her hands, rolled her sleeves, and sat like she belonged precisely until told otherwise. She didn't ask for backstory. She didn't tell hers. She crouched at Harper's level and said, I didn't say goodbye at the door because airports make time behave badly. I'm here now. Harper considered this with the gravitas of small judges. She tugged the bunny's ear into Alina's palm and pushed the bowl toward her, an invitation to be in the same weather. They slurped noodles. Alina declared one strand sneaky and another a rope, and the sound that lifted from Harper could have been a laugh or a cough. It set the room's shoulders down either way. After bath and 3 negotiated turns with the toothbrush, front, back, sparkle, Alina took a book from her bag, a bluebird on the cover, mid-air, eyes forward, few words. She read in a low, even tone that felt like a hand smoothing a blanket. He lost his song in a storm. He didn't force it back. He listened until the sky remembered him. Harper's head eased onto Alina's shoulder, as if her bones had been wanting that exact angle for months. The picture of my late wife, Claire, in the hospital, hair wild and victorious, was under Harper's pillow where my daughter had been hiding it for comfort I'd been too frightened to name. I slid it out and set it on the nightstand. The air didn't crack. The room didn't flood. The grief in me, long-walled and electrified, moved like weather, not weapon. When Harper slept, each breath a tiny proof of life, Alina and I stepped onto the narrow balcony. Neon smeared the wet streets with a language that didn't require translation. She wrapped both hands around a teacup and let its steam climb her face. Why me? She asked eventually. Not with arrogance, with the quiet bewilderment of someone held up to the light for a job she isn't sure she applied for. You didn't try to fix her, I said. Or me. You just stayed where she could see you staying. She nodded once, as if checking something against an internal ledger. My grandmother used to sit in the hall outside my door when nights got loud, she said. Back against the wall, soup on the stove, lamp on at noon if that was when the fear arrived. She called it keeping watch. I think it's the only thing that ever worked. I can write checks, I said, because honesty was getting easier in the dark. I can build teams. I can cross continents on a night's notice. I could not keep watch. I stared down at my hands, marveling at how useless they had been for so many useful things. Can you teach me? Practice does that, she said. Not talent, not charm. Promises you keep until they become a schedule the house can trust. The second day began with a pan that refused to understand pancakes. My first attempt tore like damp paper. My second reached a pallor that suggested resignation. Harper ate them both as if to spare my ego, which made me want to weep or laugh. I wasn't particular. We took umbrellas to a hotel garden where koi shouldered rainbows under gray water. Harper named one lantern. Alina approved the appointment and saluted the fish. In the bookstore around the corner, Alina bought a thin book of lullabies, even though I could have bought the whole store. Gifts count different when they cost you, she said, and I pretended not to understand because understanding stung. At noon, Harper spread crayons like a rally. She drew 3 stick figures beneath an enormous sun, triangles for bodies, their corners touching. Who's this? Alina asked, tapping the third triangle. You, Harper said, not looking up. So Daddy doesn't fall. My breath came out wrong. Alina didn't glance at me. She only nodded like a report had been filed and the necessary measures would be taken. In the late afternoon, unprompted, Harper fetched the hospital photo and set it on the table between her and the crayons. Mommy, she said. I said Claire, out loud on purpose, so I could hear the truth survive its saying. Alina hummed a few notes, searching without claiming. Harper whispered, You are my sunshine, and the syllables didn't shatter anything. We sang badly. We were unafraid. That night, just before sleep completed its slow mercy, Alina stood and said, half smiling like a person diffusing her own alarm, 3 days. 3, I echoed, trying to sound like a man who understood what time was. I didn't know that on the fourth morning, I'd find a note under an upturned mug in a room too tidy to trust. I didn't know Harper would press her forehead against an airport window and say, "People always leave," with the accuracy of an accountant. I didn't know I would chase a gray sweater through a terminal's artificial dawn, and that my daughter's small scream, "Miss Alina," would turn a goodbye into a direction. All I knew now was this: somewhere over the ocean, my daughter had used her one word on a stranger, and the world had answered correctly. If there was a map back to us, it began at 30,000 feet, with a fork and a name we could say without fear. By the second morning, Tokyo was a misted watercolor, gray light dissolving into the slick glass of the hotel windows. The city hummed below, polite and distant. In another life, I would have been checking messages from Charles, confirming board meetings, pretending my life's machinery mattered. But Harper was tracing fog hearts on the window with her finger, and Alina Taus was standing barefoot in my kitchen, turning eggs into something better than silence. "Do you always wake this early?" she asked without looking back. "Jet lag," I said, though that was only half true. My body had adjusted to the time zone. It was my mind that hadn't. She cracked another egg. "You mean guilt? That's the one that never respects time zones." I froze mid-sip. "You don't pull punches, do you?" "I'm a flight attendant," she said mildly. "Half my job is delivering turbulence gently." Harper patted in, bunny in tow, hair a soft snarl of sleep. "Smells good," she said, a phrase so ordinary it hit like a revelation. Her voice, small and rough with morning, was the sound of a door creaking open on a house long abandoned. Alina smiled. "Good morning, sunshine." Harper's head tilted. "That's what Mama used to say." I felt the air collapse for a second. My heart stuttered, but Alina didn't flinch. Then she had great taste in greetings. We ate together at the counter. Alina put too much butter on the toast and Harper giggled when it dripped down her fingers. I watched her, both of them, and realized how long I'd been starving for this kind of ordinary. After breakfast, we walked the narrow streets near the hotel. Alina carried a paper cup of coffee. Harper clutched a tiny windmill she'd convinced a vendor to let her have for free. When the breeze turned, the blades spun fast, catching bits of sunlight like laughter. "Tell me about her," Alina said quietly as Harper skipped ahead. I didn't ask who she meant. "Claire was impatient," I began, smiling faintly. "She had this way of deciding what the world owed her, and then collecting with interest." "She sounds terrifying," Alina said. "She was magnetic," I replied. "She made everything seem possible, even me." "And then she left," Alina said, not as accusation, but as fact. "A car accident," I said, 2 blocks from our house." Alina's steps slowed. "And Harper?" "She was in the car seat, not a scratch, but she saw everything." The silence stretched. Harper ran ahead, shouting about koi fish in a pond. Alina's voice, when it came, was softer. "You can't heal what you pretend doesn't hurt, Elliot." I looked at her, at the woman my daughter trusted in under 12 hours. "You say that like it's easy." "It isn't," she said. "It's just the only way." That afternoon, Alina took Harper to the hotel garden while I handled a call with Charles Whitmore. Claire's father and my ever-present reminder that grief could wear a suit. "3 days in Tokyo, Elliot?" he said. "We have investors waiting." "My daughter needed this," I said. "She needs stability," he snapped. "Not whatever this is." "She needs her father," I replied. "Not a ghost in a penthouse." There was a long pause. "You sound sentimental." "Maybe I'm human." He hung up without a goodbye. I wasn't sure if I'd just quit my company or my old life. Maybe both. When I joined them in the garden, Harper was crouched by the koi pond again. Alina sat beside her, humming a melody I almost recognized, something low and hopeful. Harper looked up and said, "Lantern likes me." "Lantern?" I asked. "The orange one," Harper said proudly. "He's brave." Alina smiled. "She names things that matter." I sat beside them, the damp air rich with rain and earth. Harper leaned against me, a weight small but monumental. Her fingers found mine. Daddy, look, he's swimming back. I followed the ripple through the water. The fish had turned, looping in patient arcs, coming back toward her hand. Lantern always comes back, she said. Something broke open in my chest, a soundless apology I hadn't known I'd been holding. Alina must have seen it, because her expression softened. She's not the only one who needs someone to come back. That evening we ordered dinner in the room again. Simple things, miso soup, rice, steamed fish. Harper drew on a napkin while Alina read aloud from The Bird Who Lost Its Song. Her voice had a rhythm to it. Slow, steady, the cadence of trust. When Harper started nodding off, Alina tucked her in. I watched from the doorway as she smoothed Harper's hair back, a motion so tender it made the room smaller. She falls asleep faster when someone hums, I said quietly. Most people do, Alina replied. Do you? I asked. She smiled without turning. Only when someone means it. When she stepped out, Harper already dreaming, I poured us tea. She leaned against the window, the city reflected in the glass. You don't talk much about yourself, I said, because you don't ask. I'm asking now. Her shoulders rose and fell. I grew up in Iași, in Romania. My mother left when I was 8. My grandmother raised me until I was 15. Then she died. I got my first job on a flight crew 6 months later. And you've been running ever since, I guessed. She glanced at me, not angry, just knowing. Sometimes you run so long you forget there are other verbs. Stay, I said. That's one. Her eyes softened, but her voice stayed cautious. For 3 days. The next morning brought rain again. Tokyo was gray silk and neon. Alina and Harper sat on the floor with crayons spread like confetti. Harper drew 3 stick figures under a too big sun. She handed it to me. That's you, she said, pointing to the tallest one. That's me, and that's Miss Alina. I looked at the picture. The 3 figures' hands touched in a perfect triangle. Why are our arms so long? I asked. So we don't fall, she said simply. Alina laughed, quiet and startled. I folded the drawing carefully and slid it into my jacket pocket. Later, while Harper napped, I found Alina on the balcony watching the rain. Her sweater sleeves were pushed up. Her hair was damp where the mist had found her. You could have said no, I told her, to all of this. I almost did. What changed? She turned, the city behind her like a living map. When she called me Angel, I thought, it's been a long time since anyone looked at me like that, like I could make something better. She's always had that gift, I said, finding the people who still matter. And you, she asked, do you still matter? I'm trying to. Alina's expression softened. Then you're already doing better than most. We stood there for a long moment, the rain tapping like a quiet metronome. Below us, taxis moved through the streets like constellations pretending to be human. When she finally spoke again, it was almost a whisper. You know this won't fix everything. I don't need everything, I said, just something real. That night, Harper woke from a dream crying for her mother. I went to her, helpless again. She's not coming back, I said before I could stop myself, and the words landed like glass between us. Alina appeared in the doorway, drawn by the sound. She knelt beside Harper's bed and whispered, sometimes love doesn't leave. It just changes jobs. Harper hiccuped, eyes wet. What job? To keep watch, Alina said. She hummed, You Are My Sunshine, and Harper's trembling slowed. I leaned against the wall, undone. Alina didn't glance up, didn't perform, just stayed until Harper slept. When we stepped out, the hallway felt fragile. You shouldn't have to do this, I murmured. Alina looked at me, and for once her guard was down. Neither should you. By the 3rd day, the air between us carried something unspoken, fragile, real, dangerous. Harper was laughing again, the sound echoing off the hotel's sterile walls like a promise. I found myself wanting more time, though I couldn't say it aloud. At breakfast, I started to. Alina, after today, she stopped me gently. 3 days, she said, almost smiling. That was the deal. I wanted to tell her I didn't make deals with miracles, but the words stayed trapped behind fear, the same fear that had once cost me everything. That night, when I woke and found the kitchen empty, I knew what silence meant. Her note sat beneath a cold cup of tea. Thank you for letting me be part of her story. No signature. None needed. The note waited beneath a cold cup of tea, her careful handwriting sitting there like a fact I didn't know how to argue with. Thank you for letting me be part of her story. No signature. She trusted we'd know. Harper stood in the doorway in pajamas, her hair bent into sleep's small braids. She looked from the cup to me to the empty corner where Alina's tote had leaned. A triangle of absence even the room registered. She didn't say goodbye, she whispered, and the whisper made the suite feel too big. I know, I said. It wasn't enough. Nothing was. We tried to proceed as if the morning hadn't changed its mind about us. I sliced fruit I couldn't taste. Harper lined strawberries along the edge of her plate like a little coast, then pushed them all away. My tummy forgot, she said, which was as honest as any medical report. I reached for the old tools, promises, distractions, sugar. They clattered uselessly to the floor between us. After a long silence, she climbed into my lap, set her ear against my chest, and listened the way she'd learned to listen to oceans through seashells. Is your heart loud? She asked. It's trying to be steady. Mine is loud. We can be loud together, I said, and felt the beat under my palm, hers then mine, out of sync until they weren't. The hours limped. We went down to the garden because gravity needs grass sometimes. The koi moved like commas, pausing where sentences should break. Lantern will come back, Harper said, drawing circles with her finger over the water. Lantern did, obedient and golden. People are not fish, I did not say. Back upstairs, Harper retrieved her drawing, the one with 3 triangles under the enormous sun, and set it on the table like evidence. With slow care, she took the gold crayon and rubbed the halo thin until only a faint shimmer remained. It's still there, she said, eyes narrowed. Just quiet. I swallowed. Do you want to add anything? She thought about it. Then she drew a small door at the base of the tallest triangle and colored it open. So people don't forget how, she said. We ate room service noodles without talking. Halfway through, she put down her fork and looked toward the bedroom, where the Bluebird book waited. Daddy, she said, you don't say her name. I didn't pretend not to understand. Claire, I said, and let the syllable stand between us without armor. I should say it more. She sang even when she was tired. I remember, I said. The truth uncurled something tight in the room. I remember the way she made pancakes too thin and called them crepes to feel fancy. I remember she hated being late but was always late for the sunsets on purpose. Saying it hurt in the way stretching hurts, pain that serves a larger motion. Harper nodded gravely, satisfied that the name had been put back where it belonged. She slid off her chair, fetched the hospital photograph from under her pillow, and set it beside the plate. She pressed her thumb to Claire's corner like a stamp. Does Mommy know Alina? The question landed like glass and light. Maybe now, I said. Maybe love introduces people. She accepted that cosmology without debate and picked up her fork again. We finished quietly, the photo and the triangle drawing like 2 small lanterns on the table. When she napped, I did the thing I had avoided since the funeral. I called my therapist, left a message that was not a performance. Then I sat on the balcony with the phone face down and the city's rain fitting itself to the street with unembarrassed competence. I looked up Alina Taos without knowing what I planned to do with the information if it arrived. Airline schedules, crew swaps, the impersonality of logistics. She had moved on to a different flight, or she hadn't. She had run, or she had kept watching somewhere else. The search results were all nouns and no verbs I could use. When Harper woke, her eyes were glassy with the thick grief children don't know they're carrying until it tips. I forgot the song, she said, panicked. We can borrow it back, I said. Songs don't mind. We sat on the carpet, backs against the couch, and I hummed the first shaky line of You Are My Sunshine. My voice was not better than yesterday, but it didn't hide. Harper joined on the word sunshine, then fell off, then found it again. When we finished, she leaned her head against my shoulder and announced, It didn't leave. No, I said. It changed jobs. She monitored the hallway for a long time after that. Twice she went to the door and listened, convinced perhaps that footsteps could be coached into existence by attention alone. Dusk musked the room. I turned on the small lamp Alina had insisted we angle toward the table, and felt, for the first time, what a lamp could do besides pretend to be a moon. We drew a chart because order comforts small people and men who have mistaken motion for meaning. Boxes labeled pancakes, walk, story, quiet, song, our little liturgy. Harper colored in the first three with the solemnity of someone signing a treaty. "Tomorrow we can color hug," she said, and then looked surprised at herself, as if she'd said a wish too loudly. "Whose?" I asked gently. She looked at the empty corner where Alina's tote had leaned. "Miss Alina's," she said, and the words didn't break her. They made us both still. Night rinsed the glass. The city became a field of blinking patience. I told Harper a true story because Alina had asked me to tell the truth about hard things, and because my daughter had earned accuracy. "When Mommy died," I said, sitting on the edge of her bed, "I told you she was late because I didn't know how to say she was gone. That wasn't fair. It made time the enemy. I'm sorry." Harper held Bunny by one ear, the way a person holds onto a small dock. "Did you think if you didn't say it, it wouldn't be real?" "Yes," I said. "I thought words make things happen." "They do," she said, no judgment in it, only childish physics. "But sometimes they make good things happen too." I kissed her forehead and hummed the first line of the Sunshine Song again for both of us. She was asleep halfway through the second. In the other room, I found the note again. Its lack of signature now feeling less like omission and more like a dare. Be part of her story. You don't get to choose how long you are in somebody's chapter. My mind supplied in Alina's voice. You only choose how present. I wrote a note back because writing out loud made me commit. I propped it against the lamp where morning would find it, and Harper might ask me to read it aloud. "Claire, I will say your name at breakfast and at dinner. Alina, I will not teach our child that love means disappearing. Harper, I will keep watch. I will be boring. I will be on time. If I fail, I will fail where you can see me and hear me apologize. I made tea because that's what adults do in books when there's nothing to fix." The steam fogged the window and reminded me of the fog hearts Harper had traced that first morning. I pressed my thumb into the note's edge and decided. Not everything, but enough for the day to hear me. In the morning we would go to the airport. I didn't know if I wanted to find Alina or to teach Harper that searching is sometimes the point, even when you cannot guarantee finding. I knew only that if we were choosing sentences to live by, "People always leave" could not be one of them. I could show her the other sentence, the one drawn in crayon and taped at eye level inside me. "You are home." I could prove that home was not a building or a schedule or even a plan. It was a person who sits on the carpet and sings badly on purpose. It was a father who says Claire and doesn't flinch. It was a girl who draws an open door. I set my alarm for too early and placed my phone screen down. I picked up the Fox book and put it on the table for morning because ritual makes bridges where bridges feel impossible. Before bed, I stood in Harper's doorway and watched her sleep with her palm open, as if catching a small rain. "We'll keep watch," I whispered to the room, and to the absent, and to the part of myself that still believed in running. At dawn, while the city rinsed itself in pale light, I packed 2 bananas, the Bluebird book, and a courage I had not used in years. Harper woke before my alarm and sat up like someone who had an appointment she intended to keep. "Where are we going?" she asked. "To see about a goodbye," I said. "Or a hello." "Okay," she said, and took my hand without looking for the bunny because she knew I'd remember it. I left our door on the latch for a second longer than necessary, like an offering. The hallway smelled like carpet cleaner and coffee and weather. "Daddy," Harper asked as the elevator hummed toward the lobby, "if we don't find her, will the song still work?" "Yes," I said, relieved to answer a question I could. "Because it knows the way home." She leaned against me. Weight, warmth, proof. The elevator doors opened to the kind of morning that looks like a beginning. Somewhere beyond the glass and security lines and unhelpful announcements, a woman had left in order not to be left, and a little girl had drawn an open door. Somewhere between those two truths, we would stand and practice saying the names that keep people real. The airport smelled like metal and memory, the kind of air that holds too many goodbyes. I didn't know what I expected to find when Harper and I arrived that morning. Maybe closure, maybe Alina, maybe both, if fate was feeling generous. Harper clutched her bunny so tight its stuffing protested. She might be on another plane, she said half to herself. Maybe, I said, but sometimes people circle back. We moved past the crowds, business suits sprinting toward purpose, tourists dragging exhaustion, children with helium balloons tethered like hope. Harper scanned every uniformed attendant with the urgency of a searchlight. We stopped at Gate 19, the last place we'd seen her. The same scent of coffee and jet fuel lingered. Harper pressed her face to the glass, fogging it with small clouds. If she sees us, she said, she'll wave. I tried to smile. If she's here, she'll know where to find us. Minutes stretched thin. Then, as if summoned by the kind of patience I'd never practiced before, I heard her voice. Low, professional, threaded with calm, speaking to a passenger by the boarding ramp. Alina, Harper gasped. Daddy! She broke into a run before I could stop her, her bunny flopping behind like a parachute. Miss Alina, she shouted. Heads turned, the kind of scene billionaires avoid, but fathers don't care about decorum when love outruns dignity. Alina froze mid-step, eyes widening as Harper collided into her legs. Hey, sunshine, she said softly, crouching. Her voice cracked on the word sunshine. You found me. Harper nodded fiercely, pressing her face against Alina's shoulder. You didn't say goodbye. Alina's eyes flicked to me. I thought it would hurt less. It didn't, Harper said, muffled. You're supposed to stay 3 days. 3 days are over, sweetheart. Then start again. The words lodged in my chest. I wanted to promise her the moon if it would stop the ache in her voice. Alina smoothed Harper's hair, a gesture both tender and self-punishing. I shouldn't have left like that, Alina said quietly, now addressing me. I told myself it was better to disappear than confuse her. You confused both of us, I said, not unkindly. Alina exhaled, the professional calm cracking. You both deserve someone who doesn't vanish when things start feeling real. Then stay, I said simply. Just stay. Her lips parted, maybe to refuse, maybe to explain. But Harper, small and certain, tugged her hand. Daddy said people can come back. And that was it. Logic, timing, fear, all silenced by a child's sentence. By afternoon, we were back at the hotel. Alina sat cross-legged on the floor beside Harper, helping her untangle a set of colored strings from the airport gift shop. Friendship bracelets, she said. You knot one for someone you want to remember. Harper looped pink thread around Alina's wrist, tongue poking out in concentration. Now you can't go away, she decreed. Alina smiled faintly. That's not how knots work. Harper looked up. It is if you mean it. I watched them, feeling something like humility, a sensation rare for a man who's been told most of his life that he could buy time, affection, or outcomes. But watching Harper's hand tremble as she tied the knot, I realized the only currency that mattered was presence. Later that evening, Harper dozed on the couch, bunny under her chin. Alina and I sat on the balcony again, the city smeared in golden shadow. She held her tea the way one holds fragile peace. I shouldn't be here, she said. Not like this. I break things when I care too much. Then we're both experts, I said. She didn't laugh. I've spent years running from homes that weren't mine. I promised myself I'd never let another child attach to me. You know what that kind of goodbye does? Yes, I said. But maybe that's the point. We both know what it costs to leave. She looked at me then. Really looked, as though measuring how much truth I could carry. You don't know me, Elliot. Maybe not. But my daughter does. And she doesn't mistake people. Her silence was heavier than the city hum. I'm not asking you to fix us, I said, just to stay until it stops feeling like she lost you again. Alina stared into her tea, then out toward the neon horizon. What if she asked me to be family? Then we'll decide together what that means, I said. The next morning, sunlight washed the room pale and forgiving. Harper woke early and climbed into bed between us before either of us realized how natural it felt. We should make pancakes, she announced. Alina groaned playfully. Your father burns pancakes. I raised an eyebrow. You remember that after one breakfast? Trauma leaves impressions, she teased. We cooked anyway. Alina coached Harper on flipping technique while I pretended the smoke alarm was part of the process. By the third attempt, the pancakes were edible, and Harper declared them perfect because they're ugly. When she ran off to color, Alina set her spatula down and faced me. She's starting to heal. You can't underestimate how fast children rebuild when they feel safe. And you, I asked, are you rebuilding too? She hesitated. I don't know if I ever stopped falling apart. Her honesty was so bare it hurt to look at. Then let's start small, I said. One meal, one morning, no promises bigger than that. A long pause, then she nodded. Okay, one morning. In the afternoon, we took Harper to a nearby music class. The instructor handed out small tambourines and ukuleles, and the air filled with off-key joy. Harper clutched her instrument awkwardly, watching other kids sing. Then Alina began humming softly beside her. You are my sunshine. Harper's fingers froze, then followed. The room blurred into something gentle and whole. By the time the last note faded, Harper had fallen asleep against Alina's shoulder, her ukulele still in her lap. I stood at the door, unable to move. Alina looked up at me. She remembers. She remembers her mother, I said quietly. She remembers love, Alina corrected. I didn't argue. That night back at the hotel, Harper's breathing was steady and untroubled. I tucked her in and turned off the lamp. Alina lingered by the doorway, arms folded. I don't know what this is, she said softly, but it feels like something I'll lose if I name it. Then don't name it yet, I said. Just be in it. She stepped closer. The distance between us felt less like space and more like possibility. For 3 days, she murmured. For as long as it matters, I said. Her hand brushed mine. Brief, electric. Enough. We stood like that for a long time. Two people who had been broken in different directions, realizing they might still fit. San Francisco announced itself with a sky pretending to be summer and a wind that wouldn't play along. From the back seat, Harper named what she saw like she was inventing the city as we drove. Bridge, gull, boat, fog. Beside me, Alina watched the water the way people watch a story already in motion. Cautious, hopeful, unconvinced it had a place for her yet. The house was waiting on its hill like a thesis I no longer believed in. Too much glass, too much silence, a kitchen designed by someone who trusted marble more than laughter. When we stepped inside, the alarm chirped its sterile greeting, and then the rooms did what they always did. Offered a flawless surface and no instructions. Harper's voice came small and curious. Is this home? It can be, I said, and felt the walls listen like critics. Alina didn't comment on the view. She walked straight to the light switches and found the lamp with the softest bulb, moved it to the edge of the island, and clicked it on. The marble exhaled honey. She set her toad on a stool and took Harper's hand. Let's teach it, she said. Houses forget when no one talks to them. Do kitchens have favorite songs? Harper asked. They do, Alina said without missing a beat. They like the ones we repeat. We failed pancakes for dinner, succeeded at noodles. Harper ate cross-legged on a chair. Bunny buckled beside her with a napkin sash. After dishes, Alina walked the perimeter of the room like a quiet architect, then dragged a lonely armchair from the unused library and angled it toward the window. She spread a throw across the floor like a small country declaring independence, set a jar of crayons on the coffee table, and slid our 2 battered books, Bird and Fox, under the lamp. Into the corner she tucked a stubborn plant rescued from a too sunny sill. There, she said, a place with gravity. Whose? Harper asked. Yours, Alina said, and mine when invited. Harper solemnly placed Bunny on the armchair. He invites you. The house, perhaps out of confusion, stayed quiet. Morning made the glass honest. I burned the first 2 pancakes and pretended it was a recipe. Alina coached Harper through flipping the third, count 3 Mississippi, lift at the bubble line, commit. And the kitchen discovered applause. We took a short walk afterward where eucalyptus and ambition shared a street. 2 neighbors waved. A dog judged us and forgave us in the same glance. Harper picked a feather and 3 stones. For the windowsill, she declared, so it remembers outside. Inside, the rooms felt marginally less aloof. Harper lined the stones like punctuation. Alina opened a cabinet, frowned at its operatic emptiness, and scribbled a list on a sticky note with square, careful letters. Lemons, honey, soap that smells like Sundays. She stuck it to the fridge at Harper's eye level and beneath the list added a second note. Pancakes. Walk, story, quiet. No times. Time could audition. By afternoon, I was already losing to habit. The inbox had repopulated like algae. Charles had left 2 voicemails threaded with concern that sounded like control. I told myself I'd answer later. I told myself later meant something kind. Then a quick sync became an hour, became 2. At 6:21, I texted, just 5 mins, and felt nothing like the person I'd claimed to be. When I opened the door at 6:47, the kitchen was clean. 2 plates in the rack, the lamp still on. On the fridge, a new drawing had been taped with forensic care. 3 triangles touching corners, beneath a sun too large for the sky. A 4th faint triangle behind them with a gold shimmer like a memory. Across the bottom, block letters pressed hard enough to groove the paper. You are home. Alina sat in the corner chair, Harper asleep against her shoulder. Bunny faced to the wall in solidarity. She didn't scold. She waited, Alina said softly. She drew. Waiting is heavy work. Shame rose first, quick and accurate. Then something else, resolve, took the second chair. I put my phone in the drawer where orphan batteries go. I washed my hands like a ritual and cooked the 3rd plate, badly but deliberately. After I tucked Harper in, counting to 3 as Alina had taught me, I stood in the hallway where the house usually won and said out loud, evenings are not for sale. Say it to the right person, Alina murmured. I did. I typed a message to the board and to Charles and to the version of myself who would try to renegotiate later. No calls after 6. If it's bleeding, call twice. If not, it waits. I sent it and silenced the phone and waited for the panic that didn't come. The next day, we practiced boredom on purpose. We bought lemons because Harper said yellow helps rooms breathe. We found a community center where the floors smelled like mop and birthday cake, and Harper joined a music class. She took to the triangle like it had been auditioning for her. Clean strikes, perfect downbeat. That's your instrument, Alina told her. Small, honest, impossible to ignore when it speaks. On the ride home, Harper asked if kitchens prefer jazz. We agreed they do. In the backyard, a forgotten patch of dirt held a spindly lemon sapling, pretending indifference. Harper knelt, sniffed its tiny leaves, and declared, "It's shy." We watered it with ceremony. "A barometer," Alina said. "If it thrives, we're doing something right." The house tilted the slightest bit toward us. There were small proofs. Harper began to announce hunger instead of letting it sneak up as a storm. The Fox book's spine softened from use. Alina stocked a low cabinet with bowls and cups Harper could reach without asking, which turned need into agency. I moved 2 meetings to obscene o'clock and found my team survived daylight without me, and yet the old world kept its passport. On Friday, an email pinged with a subject line engineered to trigger, urgent, board review deck. At 5:59, I looked at the clock, looked at the lamp, looked at the drawing. I typed, tomorrow 7 a.m. The reply arrived in seconds. We'll loop Charles. I closed the laptop and told the room, loop whoever you want, you don't loop dinner. We ate on the patio because the evening behaved itself. Harper narrated a pigeon drama as if delivering court transcripts. Alina laughed into her glass and leaned back like a person who had discovered chairs could receive trust. I told a better version of the hospital story. What I'd been wearing, how I'd held Claire's hand like it could tether time, how the nurse tucked the blanket like origami and called me Dad in a voice that made me believe I could fill the word. Harper asked the same questions she always asked and added a new one. Did Mommy like lemons? I said she liked loud flowers and quiet fruit. Harper lime green smiled and said, me too. By the second week, the house started to forget it had been a museum. The dishwasher complained. The plant in the corner unfurled a new leaf like a sentence finishing itself. The sticky ring on the marble from the morning syrup refused erasure and became a landmark. We should name it, Alina said. Harper christened it The Sun That Sat Down. Charles appeared in pixels and subject lines. I let him. He could have my mornings. He could not have 6:22. The first time the alarm chirped, Turn down the world in a conference room, someone joked. The second time, no one did. On an ordinary Tuesday, Alina stood in the doorway of the guest room, hand resting on the suitcase handle, the way people who have survived storms keep two fingers on the barometer. I need to make sure I can still leave and come back, she said, voice level but not defensive. I don't want staying to be a cage I built myself. How long? I asked, and did not let fear draft the answer. 3 days, she said, and we both smiled at the number. Harper made a chart with boxes labeled takeoff, clouds, snack, landing, hug. We hung it on the fridge where the manifesto lived. Before Alina left, Harper looped a fresh string bracelet around her wrist. Blue this time, tighter, neater. Now the airplane knows you belong to us, she explained. It's not bossy, it just forgets. The house missed Alina in small frequencies. The kettle's lonely whistle, the missing second voice on the lullaby. I burned one pancake intentionally for the dad plate, which earned me a smirk. We colored clouds when a photo pinged of a sky like crumpled linen. At 6:22 on the third day, the door opened, and Alina stepped in, hair windswept by a city that wasn't ours. Harper did not sprint. She offered the pencil. You can color hug, she said, and Alina did, careful as a signature. Later, when the dishes were stacked and the lamp made the marble honest, Alina tapped the edge of the drawing with 2 fingers. She drew this the night you were late, she said. I know. I stood beside the fridge and felt the heat of shame leave and the warmth of responsibility settle. It's better than a calendar. We took our places on the patio. The lemon sapling, unpersuaded but game, held 3 green beads like a joke it was proud of. The city below did its busy impression of importance. We let it. Inside, Harper arranged stones by size and explained that windows need heavy friends. Charles will push harder, Alina said after a while, not accusing, reading weather. I'll push back, in daylight, I said. Evenings are ours. Is that a promise? She asked. It's a schedule, I said. Those are harder to break. She leaned her shoulder into mine, subtle as a vote. Good. Night delivered its ordinary inventory. Wind against glass, the neighbor's wind chime overperforming, the refrigerator settling into the quiet anyone could live with. Before bed, we stood a minute by Harper's door, like ushers at a theater that had finally learned how to run its lights. She slept palm up, as if blessing arrivals. Bunny faced outward now, a guard promoted. In our kitchen, the sticky note list had grown. Lemons, honey, soap that smells like Sundays, bread that tolerates mistakes. Beside it, Harper had added a final line under the manifesto in careful letters that pressed through to the paper beneath. Song. I touched the word like a switch. We're getting good at this, I said. We're getting practiced, Alina corrected. Good takes time. Time has an appointment at 6:22, I said, and reached for the lamp. The room stayed warm. The house kept watch. And somewhere in the dark of the backyard, a shy lemon considered the courage to be yellow. Chapter 6. The house began to breathe differently after Alina's return. It no longer echoed when Harper laughed, and the air, once sterile as a museum, started to hold warmth that lingered past midnight. For weeks, life moved in small, sacred circles, morning pancakes, garden lessons with the lemon sapling, and bedtime songs sung just off-key enough to sound human. But peace, I'd learned, was never a static thing. It was maintenance, like the old clock in my father's office, which only ticked if you wound it every evening. Stop caring, and it stopped entirely. It began subtly. One evening, a call from Charles buzzed against my pocket, while Harper and Alina built a castle out of cereal boxes. I silenced it, proud of myself. The next day I answered just one quick call. It turned into a conference meeting, then another. By Thursday, my laptop was open during dinner again, its cold blue glow cutting the table in half. Daddy, Harper asked, holding up her drawing. Do you like the flag? Beautiful, I said without looking. A pause. Sorry, sweetheart. Just a moment. When I looked up, both of them were gone. Later that night, I found Alina outside on the patio, staring out over the city lights. Harper's window glowed faintly behind us. Her bedtime lamp cast shapes on the wall like paper stars. I broke my own rule, I said, joining her. After 6, no work. She didn't answer right away. You didn't break it, she said quietly. You just forgot why it mattered." Her voice wasn't angry. Worse, it was disappointed. It carried the softness of someone who expected history to repeat and hoped she was wrong. "I'm trying," I said. "It's a lot to hold." "So put some of it down," she replied, turning toward me. "You can't raise a child with one hand and answer an email with the other." "Charles." "Charles doesn't live here," she cut in. "We do." The words landed hard, carving through the static. For a long time, the only sound was the wind moving through the lemon leaves, rustling like a restless conscience. "I don't want to be another thing you have to fix," I said finally. Alina smiled faintly, eyes glistening. "I didn't come here to fix you, Elliot. I came because Harper asked me to. You just happened to be part of the bargain." The next morning, the air was heavy. One of those San Francisco mornings where fog presses on the windows like a waiting hand. Harper padded into the kitchen, clutching Bunny. "Is Miss Alina mad?" "No," I said quickly. "Grown-ups just get tired sometimes." "She gets tired of you?" Harper asked, too honest to be cruel. I smiled weakly. "Maybe she gets tired with me." Harper frowned. "Then you should both nap." She said it with such innocent authority that I almost laughed. But I didn't. Not really, because she was right. We were exhausted from pretending not to be afraid. That day I canceled every meeting. I took Harper to her music class myself, sitting on the floor beside her while she clanged her triangle with an enthusiasm that bordered on chaos. The other parents watched politely from chairs. I didn't care. When the instructor asked for volunteers for the closing song, Harper's hand shot up and she sang with her whole chest, off-key but radiant. I hadn't heard her voice fill a room like that since before the accident. When she finished, she ran into my arms, laughing. "Was I loud?" "The best kind of loud," I said, throat tight. "The kind that makes walls remember you." That evening, Alina found me in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, flour on my wrist. "You made dinner?" she asked, amused and cautious. "Attempted to," I said. "Success pending." She stepped closer, tilting her head at the lopsided pizza crust. "You know, some things don't need rescuing. They just need sharing." We stood side by side, adding toppings like cartographers mapping an uncertain future. When it came out of the oven, half burned but still edible, Harper declared it the best circle ever made. For the first time in days, Alina laughed without restraint. After Harper went to bed, I found her again on the patio, her old haunt. "You were right," I said, handing her a cup of tea. "I keep trying to prove I can handle everything. But maybe what Harper needs is to see me drop something and keep standing." Alina looked at me, her expression softening. "You don't have to perform to be present, Elliot. You just have to stay. Even when it's messy? Especially then." The city glowed behind her, golden and cold. I realized with a jolt that she wasn't just talking about parenting. She was talking about us. The days grew busier in quiet domestic ways. Harper insisted on watering the lemon sapling every morning, even when the soil didn't need it. "It's thirsty for love," she'd say solemnly. Alina began working part-time for the airline again, shorter routes this time, always promising to be back for Saturday pancakes. The suitcase by the door stopped feeling like a threat. It became part of our geography. But balance is a tender creature. One careless move, and it startles. Charles arrived without warning one Friday afternoon. Gray suit, sharp eyes, a storm in human form. "I took the liberty of stopping by," he said, as if we were partners and not relatives bound by loss. Alina opened the door while I finished a call. By the time I reached the foyer, the air had changed temperature. "You must be the nanny," Charles said, offering a smile too polished to be kind. Alina's chin lifted slightly. "Flight attendant," she corrected. "Off duty." "Ah," he said. "How admirable. Elliot always did have a soft spot for charity cases." I stepped between them. "That's enough." Charles raised an eyebrow. "I came to see Harper, not your latest distraction." "Then come back when you remember what respect looks like." He scoffed. "You're still the sentimental fool Claire married, and now you're raising her daughter to think emotions solve the world." Alina's voice cut through his like sunlight through blinds. "Maybe they don't solve it," she said, "but they make it worth fixing." Charles turned to leave. A storm denied an audience. "This won't end well," he muttered. "You can't build a life out of pity and lullabies." When the door closed, I realized my hands were shaking. Alina reached over, steadying them. "He doesn't scare me," she said softly. "But he scares you, doesn't he?" "He reminds me of the man I was," I admitted, "and how easy it would be to go back." "Then don't," she said simply. "Stay here. Stay different." That night after Harper was asleep, I found Alina sitting by the lemon tree under a string of patio lights she'd hung herself. "You shouldn't let him get to you," she said without looking up. "People like him mistake control for care." "I know," I said, sitting beside her, "but he's right about one thing. I don't know what I'm doing." She smiled faintly. "Welcome to the club. Does the club come with instructions?" "No," she said, "just people who stay even when you burn dinner." I laughed softly, and the sound felt like permission. "Alina, you've changed everything." "I didn't change you," she said. "You started changing the moment you wanted Harper to smile again. I just reminded you where the light switch was." We sat there until the house went still. Harper's crayon drawing fluttered in the kitchen window. The words, "You are home," catching the breeze like a prayer. The lemon tree's leaves shimmered in the glow, green and brave. I reached for Alina's hand. "Let's keep watch," I said. Her fingers tightened around mine. "Always." They didn't pick a date. They recognized one. The lemon tree offered its first bright fruit, fat as a promise, and Harper declared, "It's ready." The sky agreed, blue, unambitious, a few clouds loafing at the edges, like guests who knew not to talk during the vows. The judge, an old friend who had once expedited papers when grief made everything urgent, arrived in a cardigan with a tablet and the sort of smile you borrow for brave moments. No aisle, no audience. Just a throw blanket on the grass, a string of lights doing their best impression of fireflies, and the kitchen watching through glass, less aloof than when we'd met it. Alina wore a simple dress the color of seawater deciding on shore. I wore a shirt Harper called Trustworthy Sky. Harper herself wore white cotton and bare feet and carried a lemon cupped in both hands like a planet. "Short," the judge suggested, glancing at the house. "Before bedtime." "Short," Alina agreed. "We have pancakes in the morning." We stood beneath the lemon tree because we'd built too much under it not to. Harper stepped between us, solemn, and held up the lemon. "Proof," she announced. "Of what?" the judge asked kindly. "That we stayed," she said, as if it were obvious. The vows came out simpler than I expected, which felt right. "I've measured love in speeches and sacrifice," I told Alina, "and I was wrong. You taught me it's kept in schedules and small promises you keep in public. I promised 622. I promised pancakes that improve very slowly. I promised to say Claire's name like a light, not a wound. I promised to keep watch, even when the world auditions emergencies." Alina's mouth trembled and then steadied. "I used to think leaving was the way I survived," she said. "Then you and Harper turned a door into a window. I promised to fly without fleeing. I promised soup that smells like Sundays. I promised to love your daughter as if love could learn gene splicing. And when I'm afraid, because I will be, I promise to say it out loud and let you hold the fear from the safe end." Harper tugged my sleeve. "Rings," she stage whispered. We hadn't ordered rings. We had bought them at the farmer's market from a woman who hammered silver like punctuation. Harper presented them on a lemon leaf. "Any objections?" she asked, deadly serious. The judge glanced at the house, at the lemon, at the sky. Nobody dared. The judge said the words he had said for other people in other gardens. They sounded newly invented. When he finished, I kissed Alina the way we had been practicing, without staging, without apology. Harper clapped once like a conductor releasing a symphony, and then launched into logistics. Photos, noodles, bedtime. We ate at the kitchen window because that's where it had started to be easy. Harper opened 3 fortune cookies until she found a message we could live with. "You are exactly where you should be." She taped it beside her drawing and stepped back like a curator. The sticky ring of syrup on the marble caught the light and refused to be embarrassed. The next morning arrived with its usual negotiations. A shoe that had opinions, the coffee filter that ducked responsibility, the lemon tree asking for water without asking. We made pancakes, one burnt on purpose for the dad plate, and added a new line to the fridge manifesto in block letters. Song. Harper tapped the word with the authority that comes from practice. Every day, she said. We nodded, already humming. Word traveled the way it does, through group texts and curious neighbors, and the way men like Charles hear about changes they did not authorize. He came on a Sunday with peonies the color of confident gossip. He stood in the doorway longer than necessary, looking at the drawing on the fridge, at the string lights still up in daylight, at the woman who had been misidentified as a phase. Congratulations, he said, no spin left in the syllables. Thank you, Alina replied, neither defensive nor deferential. Charles turned to Harper and crouched stiffly, as if the floor charged a fee. Do you like lemon trees? She considered him. They're brave. Then polite. Do you? I'm learning, he said, which surprised us both. We gave him a slice of cake and let the house negotiate with him. He noticed the syrup ring on the counter and didn't mention marble. He asked for stories about Claire and didn't interrupt. Before he left, he set the peonies on the island and said quietly, She would have liked this. I know, I said, and because honesty had become our safest furniture, I added, I'm learning to like it too. Life arranged itself, not like a calendar, but like a song you rehearse until your mouth remembers it before your mind does. Alina took short routes, 2 nights, sometimes 3, leaving with a suitcase that had shed its thread. Harper made a chart each time. Takeoff, clouds, snack, landing, hug. She colored squares like liturgy. Alina texted cloud photos that looked like pressed linen. At 6:22, the door opened more often than not. On nights when weather disagreed, she sent a message from the sky. Delayed. Keep my chair warm. We did. We ate in the lamp's circle and left her plate under a towel like a vote of confidence. She landed late, kissed Harper's sleeping forehead, and put her hand on the lemon tree as if taking its pulse. Work learned new verbs. I stepped down from the theater of being indispensable and found out I wasn't. No tragedy ensued. I moved to a role that let other people be spectacular. A young engineer wrote me a message and used too many exclamation points. Thanks for choosing evenings. I chose mine too. I taped it inside the mug cabinet where only I would see it at the right hour. Charles sent articles with headlines. I sent him photos of pancakes that were slowly becoming circles. There were storms. Harper declared peas an enemy nation and founded a long war. The dishwasher chose drama, then repentance. I missed 6:22 once by 21 minutes and found a new drawing on the fridge. 3 triangles under a cloud, a small clock with tears. We sat on the floor and apologized in both directions. Waiting takes muscle, Alina said. We agreed to train smarter. On a Tuesday, the lemon tree produced a ridiculous abundance. 4 yellow planets at once. Harper picked one with both hands and carried it like a trophy. Proof, she said. Of what? Alina asked, because she loves to hear it stated. That we stayed. That we came back. We made lemonade and didn't sweeten it too much. We agreed sour is part of the truth. After dinner, Harper asked for the Sunshine song at the window. We sang it, the 3 of us. Off-key, accurate enough. In the reflection, I could see the life we hadn't known how to picture and the faces that had decided to trust it. Summer leaned in slowly. The community center held a recital where 6 triangles clanged in approximate unison, and parents cried anyway. In the photo afterward, Harper's on the end, chin up, metal askew, grin lawless. Alina is behind her, hair frizzed by humidity and joy. I am holding the program like a legal document that says I live here now. On a night without occasion, we ate on the patio. The sky took its time changing clothes. Traffic on the hill made the constant lullaby it makes. The plant in the corner unfurled a leaf with the patience of old saints. The lemon tree shivered like a green bell. Tell me again about the aisle, Alina said, chin on her knee. I told it. The fork, the word angel, the way the world widened by 1 seat's distance. I thought I needed a miracle, I said. It turned out we needed a schedule. She laughed. Don't ruin my mystique. Never, I said. You fed us at 30,000 feet. I'm just learning to keep the plates warm at sea level. Harper wandered out in pajamas with a book and the certainty of welcome. 2 pages and a true story, she bargained. We read the Fox book and then the true story about the hospital. The towel-warm breath, the nurse who called me dad like a promotion I could survive, the way Claire insisted the first song be a ridiculous one. Harper asked the same questions. I answered them as if new because repetition is how trust grows muscle. When she slept, with one hand open, as if blessing arrivals, we did the dishes the old-fashioned way because the dishwasher had declared the evening a holiday. We bumped hips. We argued gently about the right number of lemons for a dressing. We made a small mess and called it proof. We're not glamorous, I said, half apology. Glamorous chips, Alina said. This survives the dishwasher. We stepped out to check the tree because we always do. A plane stitched its careful dotted line above, and we looked up in unison. We can still love the sky, Alina said. We do, I said. We just sleep on the ground. She leaned her forehead to my shoulder for the length of an amen. Inside, the fortune curled at the edges. The syrup ring outlasted another scrub, and the fridge held our constitution at eye level. You are home. The world would make its case again tomorrow, bright and persuasive. Emails, flights, headlines, the old anthem of hurry. We would answer the way we had promised. Pancakes first, then the empire of manageable things. Some mornings we'd sing on key, some we'd nod in rhythm and call it music. We'd color the boxes as the hours happened. We'd defend 622 like a border and forgive each other when weather slowed the return. The lemon tree listened like a witness. The house, once a museum, practiced being lived in until the habit became its nature. In the quiet that followed the evening's chores, I could hear the particular sound Alina had taught me to recognize, the one her grandmother had named on nights that needed naming. It wasn't destiny or luck. It was watchfulness. It was the kind of love that knows a door can also be a window, and sometimes when you leave it open, the wind carries the song back to where it belongs.